So, PJ, let's actually start with the big one. The Fighting Jordan Loves.
The big one.
Utah State, my Aggies.
This is a big one.
Terrible football team. I have very low expectations for Utah State. But I don't know what to do with this game with Iowa because Cade McNamara, supposedly going to make his debut as starting quarterback for the Hawkeyes, started 16 games at Michigan where he completed over 64% of his passes. Nobody's done that at Iowa, checks notes, since 2015 when the kid was in college. So I think he's pretty important because the offense last year for the Hawkeyes, 17.7 points per game, their lowest amount since the year 2000 when the kid was in high school. Wow. Yeah, as a freshman. Actually, I was in the 8th grade in 2000. So Brian Ferentz gets to call plays again this season. For him to keep his job, they got to average 25 points per game. But Cade McNamara, Peach, is dealing with a knee injury, had knee surgery last offseason, and we don't know if he's going to be a go. Anything that you like in this game? I know you're going to give your plays because my lean was the under. But if Cade plays, I actually kind of want to take the team total over on Iowa. Like, I have Iowa projected to score 35 points in this game. I think they're actually going to score some points this season. I like them a little bit. I think they're going to be able to run the ball. They have your typical Iowa offensive line. They're going to be tough defensively, but this is all about the offense. I think they could at least average 25 points per game, so Brian keeps his job.
So of all the games this weekend, the number one most bet under, according to our friends at BetMGM,
Saw this.
Iowa, Utah State. And Ryan, think about what we've seen so far in week one. Big Ten teams that people love to bet the under on. Nebraska, Minnesota, Michigan State. I mean, look at what these teams are doing offensively. So you're watching all these Big Ten teams, you're taking in the action, and then we get the ultimate under team in Iowa tomorrow. People are going to continue to bet the under. I actually think the over is the play, and it's the reason that I like Iowa to cover the spread. Because if the over is the play at 43, Utah State's not scoring more than 7 points.
No.
Maybe they score 10, but absolutely no more than that. So you guys do the math. If the over-under is 43 and Utah State at most scores 10, that means Iowa would have to score 34 points to cash the over. 33 push, 34-10 gets us a cover at 23.5.
Yeah.
So that's what I bet. Iowa 23.5. That's the way I see it. If this is the most bet under on the board and our total's sitting at 43, Utah State's not scoring more than 10. I think they score 7, so I'll take Iowa. I think your team total over though is probably the way to go.
Well, let me ask you a question. If you had Drake May running your offense, what would your go-to option be?
Drake May.
Exactly, right? When you got that dude, you let him be that dude. Now, you may go to tight end sets a little bit more. I mean, one of the tight ends that they have in Bryson Nesbitt he's a 6'5", about 220-pound sort of wide receiver hybrid. You know, he's more of a hybrid type player than he is a true tight end. He might be 230 now. I think that's probably a little on the optimistic end. But I think maybe you see more Nesbitt. You put him in the slot, do some things there to take advantage of some other matchups that you might not have with Tez Walker otherwise. But you still let Drake May drop back and be Drake May, and then you try to let that guy set up your running game with all that he does as a passer. And also, I mean, remember, he had over 700 rushing yards last year, right around 700 rushing yards, including the bowl. So, you know, you let him do his stuff, and then they're really hoping to be a lot better in terms of the running game, but the running game really is about balance for them rather than, oh no, you know, we don't have our fastest and best wide receiver. Now all of a sudden we're going to become a running team. I just don't see that happening when you've got that dude behind the center.
Any concerns with the offensive line this season, though?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, there are concerns. You know, the offensive line last year gave up too much pressure in general, and gave up some sacks that they shouldn't have, although some of the sacks were on May for holding it so long. And again, you know, when you've got a guy that's as escapable as he is and is able to make plays with guys in his face the way he is, sometimes, you know, that's what you take with that with those traits, is somebody who's willing to hold on to it sometimes a little too long. But they gave up too much pressure, just bottom line. And they have 4 guys returning from that line, which, I mean, again, if you're returning 4 guys from a line that gave up too much pressure in the first place, I mean, that's good that you've got guys returning, but it's also bad that you weren't super great with those guys on the field last year. And then the 5th guy that you're missing happens to be a left tackle that got drafted. So, you know, they moved their right guard, Barnes, to left tackle. I've never been completely sold on him as a natural tackle, and even at tackle, he's always seemed more like a right tackle in terms of his feet. He actually has handled himself pretty well in camp. So, and you know, I got to see him a little bit in a couple open practices, and was encouraged by what I saw there. But I think the jury is still out in terms of overall talent level and just depth and some of the things that you want to see on the offensive line. And there is reason for concern, yes.
Jason, defensively, we know that North Carolina has been a team that's been great on offense. They've struggled on defense. Do you think Mack Brown this year, has he kind of told maybe the media that he expects the defense to be better this year, or do you get the impression that it's still going to be a struggle on that side of the ball?
Well, he's talked a lot about how he's every day found new ways in the office to try to, you know, bring up how bad the defense was to defensive coordinator Gene Chizik, just to get Chizik to kind of gnash his teeth and grit, you know, get a little bit more fixated on fixing things compared to what they were last year. And I think some of that is obviously tongue in cheek, but I mean, I think it's obvious that they need to improve significantly on last year's defense, which might have been the worst in the ACC. And wise, there was no excuse for that. I mean, they've got 5 blue chip defensive linemen on this roster. I think it might be even 6. They've got some talented linebackers, and there's decent talent and depth in the secondary. There really should not be struggles that they had last year, but there were some cultural things in play in terms of them not being physical enough, and just a number of injuries. They were bitten by the injury bug up front, and that hurt a lot. But they need to be a lot better. They know they need to be a lot better, and that has been anything else. That has been the single biggest focus of the program going back to January, has been a conviction from Mack Brown that they need to be more physical on both lines of scrimmage and need to be a lot better and more reliable on the defensive side, or they're not going to have even as good a year as they did last year, because this schedule for them does not set up, I think, quite as easily, especially as the first 9 games did for them last year.